wasn't diagnosed with anorexia until I was in my 40s. And at that time, I learned that eating disorders are not about food. Rather, the behaviors with food are the symptom. And any type of eating disorder, it's what's beneath the surface that contributes to the development of an eating disorder, along with genetics and biology and psychology and certain personality traits. My story begins in Rochester, New York in 1963. It was an innocent childhood to begin with. I would say suburban privilege. I always had a roof over my head, enough food to eat. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad worked hard as a lawyer. Then in 1970, my innocence of my early childhood was shattered when my father, with no warning to my mother, told her that he didn't want to be married to her anymore. And he got a quick divorce in Mexico at that time and left my mother, my baby sister, and me. My mom modeled for us that when something like this happens, you just go on as if nothing happened. So our suburban life went on as a family of three. In many ways, I came from a very loving home. My mom thought she was protecting us from her pain by not sharing it with us or talking about it, the difficult emotions associated with the divorce. She could be very loving, but as time went on, she became increasingly rigid, more controlling. I think that so many of her difficult emotions remained inside and did not have a healthy outlet. So I often felt that I was her emotional outlet, and she would yell at me for no known reason. But I learned quickly that by getting good grades and doing well on the tennis court, which became a huge part of my life around the age of 12, that made her happy. So at times we had a very good relationship, but it got more and more strained as I got older and realized that this wasn't what I wanted long term. I think it all goes back to my parents' divorce. I believe it's when I developed anxiety, though that also wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 40s. I developed a lot of fear and anxiety, especially connected to issues related to health and safety. And my eating disorder developed as a way of coping with anxiety, a way of coping and numbing difficult emotions. I never learned, and it was never modeled for me, how to feel feelings, how to express emotions. I thought I always had to be positive and unemotional. So the eating disorder ultimately developed as a way to continue to numb all those difficult emotions that I never was allowed to feel. Tennis has been a huge part of my life since about the age of 11. I started taking lessons because my parents loved tennis, but I wasn't very good at it and didn't take it very seriously. Then after a mother-daughter trip to the US Open at Forest Hills when I was about 11 and a half, almost 12, my passion was born. I loved seeing the players I had only seen on television. I loved getting autographs, putting pictures from magazines on my wall. My passion was born, and I too wanted to become a tennis champion someday. As a result of my tennis career, there was a strong connection between food and exercise, clearly ingrained from a young age. For whatever reason, it didn't take hold until my 40s when I developed this intense fear of gaining weight. Unfortunately, tennis also became intertwined with my eating disorder. When I was diagnosed with asthma around this time and unable to play, I felt very anxious, depressed, and out of control. And my eating disorder, which had been brewing from a young age, took hold then as a way of helping me feel in control. I started restricting my food intake. My eating disorder came in, took hold, took over my brain and my body. I became consumed by thoughts about food and exercise. The eating disorder helped when tennis couldn't.
I think most people would think that someone who has anorexia is 14 or 15-year-old girl who's looking really too thin. And Betsy never looked like that. She never looked really thin, and she's slight of build anyway. It was certainly on the low side of her weight, but you wouldn't say, geez, this is like anorexic. You just wouldn't even think that. And again, just as her eating disorder did not take a day or a year to develop, it's definitely not going to take a day or a year to go in a different direction.
My asthma doctor actually said to me at one visit, "Don't lose any more weight. Are you okay?" I didn't really think anything of that. I went to another healthcare provider who was very concerned with my weight loss. She contacted my primary care doctor, and that led to lots of extra appointments for weight checks and chats. And she made sure that I got in touch with a dietitian and a therapist. I didn't know that in my 40s I could have a diagnosable eating disorder. So it wasn't until I finally made an appointment with that dietitian that I was diagnosed with anorexia and began my journey to recovery.
As a husband, I want my spouse to feel good about the year that just happened and feel good about the year that's about to happen. And the only way I could do that was to support her and to encourage her to seek whatever treatment she needed to have. And as someone who likes to cook, I always try to make things that are a little bit different that she might like to eat, even if she's not eating the same as me. And every now and then I surprise myself and I get lucky and she finds something new. But the other thing is I really try not to be critical. I know it's not something she can control, so it's not like you can say, "Oh, suck it up," or "Do this," "Oh, that's there, you should eat this," or "You don't exercise today."
My treatment team would have liked me to stop playing tennis temporarily so that I could have restored my weight more quickly. But tennis, once again, became such an important part of my life. So recovery had to set limits on my tennis, not playing too much and learning how to take days off and still fuel my body properly. And now I'm happy to say tennis has a healthy balance in my life. I'm able to still play, but it's only one piece of my life. And I know how to fuel my tennis sufficiently so that I can be my healthiest self. I learned early on through my dietitian that recovery from my eating disorder went way beyond restoring my weight. She worked with me with meal plans to start the process of restoring my weight. But I had to learn early on that my eating disorder wasn't about food. Eating disorders are never about food. It's the behaviors with food, whether it's restricting, binging, purging, whatever it is. Those are the symptoms of something deep within. So for me, recovery first required that self-awareness of understanding how the difficult experiences in my life impacted me and how I responded to them, and what I needed to do to dig deep, to go back, to acknowledge and understand that the difficult experiences in my life had been trauma, emotional trauma, and that I needed to go back and allow myself to be vulnerable and for the very first time, feel the feelings, identify the feelings, explore the feelings. It was really hard work to get in touch with literally 40 years of suppressed emotions. And that took years of unraveling and unpacking with my therapist who specialized in eating disorders. My dietitian focused on restoring my weight with my meal plan. As soon as that got back on track, it was really about unraveling the layers and layers of suppressed emotions and specifically understanding that vulnerability, which I had always equated with weakness, was absolutely essential. I had to let my guard down. I had to understand that being strong isn't always being positive, that I'm human, I have emotions, I have all kinds of feelings, and I need to be able to feel them. Recovery is so difficult, but it is so worth it. And it has given me freedom to be my authentic self, freedom to not only have found my voice, but to use my voice, the ability to share my story freely and openly, to allow myself to be vulnerable. My therapist uses a sailing metaphor. The sea is not always going to be calm, and just because you can sail just fine when the seas are calm, you have to learn better sailing skills so when the stormy seas come about, you are a better sailor, you are better equipped. My recovery was already in a good place, but it got significantly stronger when in 2017 I had to undergo a complete abdominal hysterectomy as a result of the tumor that was found on my ovary. My anxiety was through the roof. I had never had major surgery before, but I was grateful to survive the 3-hour surgery and learn that the tumor was in fact benign. That health scare really was a powerful reminder of how fragile health can be and how important it was to take care of the one body I've been given and what my body is capable of when it's healthy. Now, as a result of writing my memoir, I've certainly helped myself to heal on the deepest level possible. I am so motivated to give hope to others and to inspire others, especially women in midlife, but people of any age, that no matter what you've been through in life, and we all have been through something, that recovery is possible and it's worth doing the hard work.